Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, Ghana is still classified as being in debt distress by IMF and World Bank, despite progress by government on domestic liability payments and expansion of the economy. Also coming up, liquidity on money market remains tight as government records marginal oversubscription of treasury bills. Plus, Africa's learning crisis to take center stage at a high-level AU meeting this week. We'll tell you about the impact of this crisis on our economy, the efforts being made to get African governments to commit to tackling it. My guest will be Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, who is founder and CEO of the Human Capital Africa and also former World Bank Vice President of the Africa region. My name is Darrell Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for staying with us, everyone. First up, Ghana remains a debt-distressed country, and these debts are unsustainable. That's according to the latest joint debt sustainability review by the IMF and World Bank. Here's George Affe with more.
IMF and the World Bank are of the view that despite some progress made by Ghana when it comes to the domestic debt exchange program and the recent expansion of the economy, that was still not enough to improve on the country's debt situation. They, however, believe the situation can be said to be improving when Ghana is able to sign an agreement with the Eurobond holders on clearing their debts and the commercial bilateral creditors. The IMF and the World Bank are even worried about the situation going forward as commodity prices, exports and the exchange rate shocks could impact badly on the country's situation going forward. Meanwhile, the country was able to save some $2.6 billion due to the debt servicing freeze announced in December 2022. Now, this wasn't some fiscal money sitting in a vault somewhere, but rather payments that government would have made if it had not secured that debt servicing freeze from December 2022 to December 2023.
All right, time to bring you the latest on the financial markets here on the marketplace. All right, liquidity on the money market remained tight as the government missed its treasury bills target by 253.7 million cedis. According to auction results from the Bank of Ghana, interest rates were unchanged. Patrick Edemagama is head of trading at Republic Securities. He joins me on Zoom. And Patrick, interesting turn of events. Talk to us about a bit more about how the auction went.
Good afternoon, Darrell. So we noticed that the government raised 4.48 billion, accepting and allotting all bids against a target of 4.72 billion. This was a missed target, but we noticed that was enough to retard the maturing obligations of the government. It was actually 1% more than the maturing obligations for today. So we noticed the 91-day, 182-day, and 334-day closed at the same rate they closed for last week. And we are seeing this continue for the target for next week, which is this particular auction. We expect it to be higher and follow the same trend.
How do you interpret this outcome? What do we look forward to this week?
Well, looking at the inflation dropping by about 30 basis points, we were expecting to see the rates at the same level because the pricing guidance also came at the same level where the 91-day was at the same 24.79%. Because there's no significant drop in inflation, we don't expect the rate to actually push down. But in terms of the volumes that were accepted and bidded for, it is expected because the target was big. The target was 4.72 billion. So we expect the government not to be able to reach that full volume.
And interest rates remained unchanged. We saw inflation go down last week, as announced by the Ghana Statistical Service. How soon do we see it reflect in interest rates, and how significantly are the rates going down, do you think?
Well, because the change was not that significant, we don't expect it to move down so fast. The beauty of all this is that the pricing guidance for some time now has been working, and it gives the government or the committee a chance to be able to control interest rates in this regard. So we will monitor and see how this goes in the coming month. We are also monitoring how the GGRR rate responded. We saw that for this month, it only went down by 9 basis points, which was also not so significant. So that will be able to keep interest rates at the level we see until a very significant move happens in inflation before we can be able to see something changing.
Well, let's turn to the stock market. What are we looking forward to this week as well from there?
All right, so on the stock market, we saw that there's been increased interest in Atlantic Lithium, Total, MTN, and then Benzo Oil Palm. We've seen that in the previous week, that actually led the market to reaching a year-to-date gain of 30.55%. The financial stock index is still around 9.59% year-to-date gain, and we are seeing this interest mount. However, on the sell side, we've seen there's mounting of offers for Enterprise Group Ltd, and this is expected since we are still waiting for some of their financials to come out.
Okay, I want to ask you about Enterprise, because you're watching Enterprise this week. Market watchers predicting that Enterprise Group Limited is going to post some losses. What's happening there?
Well, we can see it from two sides. The first side is that it means people are now buying and willing to buy at a lower price. We know for almost a year now, Enterprise Group has been showing, they've been heavy on the offer side. However, there's still uncertainty in the market. You know, in April, they requested extension to be able to submit their full year report and their first quarter report. And then in June, they again requested extension to be able to submit their first quarter report. And so now we are still waiting for some of these reports. So the uncertainty in the market is quite significant to actually drive the price down. And the fact that the price is going down, it means people are now buying, but buying at a very lower cost. So we expect this trend to happen for some time until we see the full figures of their performance.
All right, Patrick Edemagama, Head of Trade in Republic Securities, great to speak with you this afternoon on the marketplace. Thank you. Now, some stakeholders in the hospitality industry are concerned about the impact of the free fall of the cedi against other foreign currencies in recent times. According to General Manager of La Palm Royal Beach Hotel, Anthony Ganza, this is negatively impacting operations. He spoke to Joy Business at the launch of the hotel's new conference center called the Palm Convention Center.
The Ghana cedi continued to lose ground to major trading currencies on the back of persistent corporate demand. According to Mr. Anthony Ganza, the ever-rising taxes coupled with the volatility exchange rate are adversely affecting businesses. He said La Palm Beach Hotel is on track to attract more local and foreign investors.
You know, we engaged certain people who were just talking, and the idea came up that you know, we had the space to create a really large edifice that can cater to businesses that we're losing to other countries, not just in Europe, but even in Africa. There are other places that had bigger facilities, and so we were losing businesses to them. So we came back to the drawing board and thought that, you know what, we have the space and we have the capacity, so why not? So yes, so the dream then became, you know, a reality. We started working on it, and today, as you can all see, we've done it, and we've created something that is very unique in the market today, right now. Well, it is tough, but you know, we have to just work with it. Unfortunately, that's the situation, and that's what the market that we work in. And so we have to then obviously adjust ourselves whenever, as and when we need, and just try to keep ahead of the game. So.
The Palm Convention Center is a conference hall to serve as a venue for various events such as public shows, trade shows, conferences, and exhibitions.
Now, the National Insurance Commission says it is working to improve the competitiveness of the insurance sector through the development of a new framework to identify and address emerging risks. Acting Commissioner Michael Kofi Annan indicated that cyber risks and climate change are affecting the industry, hence the need to find solutions and ensure sustainability within the sector. He was speaking at the 10th anniversary of Prudential Life Insurance.
Speaking at the 10th anniversary of Prudential Life Insurance Ghana, Acting Commissioner of the National Insurance Commission, Michael Kofi Annan, stressed the importance of industry players to take advantage of unique and highly accessible opportunities being offered to support the insurance sector.
The National Insurance Commission thinks there's still more potential for growth and is pursuing a number of measures to help the industry unleash this potential. First one is to adopt and implement international standards. I'm sure most of you, especially the staff, have heard about IFRS 17 and all the wahala that it's creating for everybody. That's an international standard, and that's going to help us to objectively and effectively measure the results of our operations. We are also working to roll out the risk-based capital framework that will help us to ensure that every company's capital is commensurate with its risk profile.
Acting Chief Executive Officer for Prudential Life Insurance Ghana, Jane Mingle, called for more collaboration for the insurance sector.
We have a strong compliance regime, strong governance. I remember when Prudential came to Ghana and they told us, you can't do ABC. I said, how can our business flourish? We must survive. That is the market. You cannot do it. But today, despite all those challenges, we have been successful. So all I say is that having a strong governance and compliance regime seems to be a difficult task, but it pays off well for you to have a very sustainable business.
And you're still watching The Marketplace. By the year 2050, Africa's population is projected to be more than double, making the continent that will possess over 40% of the world's labor force. Now, a key ingredient for harnessing Africa's population dividend will be the need to educate and effectively equip the youth with core skills that will be relevant for industrial transformation and to spur growth across the continent. Well, in view of this, the Human Capital Africa, a Pan-African organization, says it will, on the sidelines of the AU high-level meeting this week in Accra, host a presidential briefing that will bring about a concerted effort at empowering the Africa through education. Well, in studio with me is Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, who is founder, chief executive of Human Capital Africa, also former World Bank vice president of the Africa region. Happy to have you in studio to talk about this. Hope you're enjoying your time in Ghana so far.
So far, so good.
So far,
Thank
so
you, Daryl.
good.
Thanks for welcoming me.
Yeah, happy that you're here. And I just wanted to begin with the crisis we are talking about. The millions of African children, we understand, are facing a critical learning crisis. Talk to us about the crisis.
So it's often the case that people go to school and, inherently, our expectation is that they went to school to learn. The sad news today is that learning isn't happening. And so we have a learning crisis globally where 6 out of every 10 children who are in early grade, which is the grade that you're in, 1, 2, 3, before the age of 10. And 6 out of every 10 globally are not learning, meaning they are not achieving minimum proficiency levels in literacy, numeracy, and socio-emotional skills. In the case of Africa, 9 out of every 10 children.
You're kidding me?
No.
9 out of 10 children.
This is the dismal data we're working with. I am known for saying that in God I trust, but every other person must bring data. So this is data that is well generated, and one that should make all of us angry enough to say, this is not acceptable and we must do something about it.
Well, we've got to make our viewers understand this. So, I mean, the kids are in school. I mean, we've told children are in school.
Yes.
But 9 out of 10
are really not
achieving
minimum proficiency level in literacy, meaning reading, in math, meaning the basic ability to perform at operations like 1 + 1 is 2 and 2 × 5 is 10. And they are not able to actually form the socio-emotional skills that enable the attitudes that are important to accompany cognitive and motor skills that they require for life.
Why is that the case? What are the lapses?
So there are many explanations for this. A major part of the explanation, as we found, through research, is that the teacher quality is one, but teaching method is a very significant issue. The absence of what we call pedagogical structure. So there's something called structured pedagogy. Basically, a very basic way of saying that when you are going to engage children in the teaching process, there are a number of things that have to be structured. And that if they are structured, then you're able to get children at a very wholesale basis. So you don't leave many children behind because a few smart ones are able to know what you're teaching. So it's a mix of how you teach method. It's also about their access to the right kinds of textbooks. It's about how you teachers write their lesson notes, drawing it from the curriculum. And we took our eyes off all of these things. We took our eyes all of what it means to actually really engage the learning experience of children. And so children go to school. We see them. They go to school. We see quite a number of them when they are coming back from school. But they haven't learned. Yeah. And we just keep moving on. And it's not, and part of it came from the lack of the right kinds of assessment. So our assessment system is so faulty that it wasn't catching up on this. And what we found through research is that because children are not learning at the foundational level, it stymies what they can be as they move through the whole value chain of the education process. That's what shows up in, they come out of secondary school and people are saying, I saw something recently where, people in the tertiary institutions, or was it secondary education in my country, were saying something like, stop sending us children who cannot, who are not doing well, and I'm thinking that's the more reason why every one of us must be advocates for the continent fixing the foundation of education. I
mean, for those wondering, watching and wondering, what has this got to do with anything? Tell us what this, how this impacts our economy, the ramifications for other aspects of the economy, such as food security, labor, human capital. Tell us a bit more.
So, look, this correlates the wobbly foundation, the deficit that we see, where the performance is pitiful. It correlates to how many children will transit to secondary education and do well in order to prepare themselves for tertiary education, as the case may be. It correlates to the number of children who will fall out because the learning experience isn't working for them. It correlates to the fact that when countries have said, oh, we're going to set up technical and vocational schools. Well, they're producing people out of those kinds of technical and vocational, but they really aren't providing, they're not providing the kind of skills, even in terms of technical and vocational. In order for you to be a good carpenter, in order for you to be a good plumber, you need to have literacy, you need to have basic numeracy. You look at what's going on, how it correlates to the issues of health. People need to be able to read, even if you're embarking on a campaign, on health. People have to access the knowledge through being able to read. So the entire chain of it is affected. And when you look at the fact of the labor mismatch that the private sector continually is crying about, that's what's driving it. Look, Daryl, it's pretty easy. If we're building a house and we say this house is not standing well, where do we first look? We don't go to the rooftop. we go to the foundation. You know,
exactly.
So that's what's going on. But because the constituency, the voice for foundational aspect of education is very thin. The people who are failing are the children of the poor. And poverty is also the absence of voice in our whole political construct. And so what we see is that the elite of society with their children in university are more in the faces of politicians. Political leaders have political incentive to want to do something about university education. But come on, the most significant aspect of education that governments should be concerned about, foundational education. Because the poor need that. They need a publicly funded education at that level in order to at least enable their children access the rest of opportunities available in society.
Right, and so as you point out, improving foundational literacy and numeracy is not just about education, it's essential for healthcare, food security, climate change, economic development.
Everything.
Where do we start from in finding solutions?
So in finding solutions, it goes to some of the things I earlier said. So for example, we have to really train teachers well. When you look at the training of teachers, even in terms of, you know, in-service training to sort of get them into the new methods, into, you know, the capacity to raise children at scale, that whole teacher thing is a major primary driver. But just training teachers and having more teachers and having quality teachers is not enough. Constantly, we have to have these in-service ways of ensuring that the curriculum, the lesson notes, the accountability for outcomes, you know, you bet that I saw it in my country when I was Minister of Education in Nigeria. You would find so much investment that's not producing the right outcome, but because people were not searching, they could not see the mismatch.
The same situation.
You have to be interested. You have to be interested in accountability. How many, you know, the basic question is, hello, Minister of Education. Hello, District Head of Education. How many of our children in the classroom are learning? We need to have systems for being able to track the progress of our children. Otherwise, we get blind to it. And then we end up in the data of 9 out of 10 of them not learning.
Well, speak of data, we know organizations like UNESCO and the World Bank are collaborating with African countries to develop standardized assessment tools and build data collection capacity. I want to ask you about that exercise and how that's going.
Yeah, so, you know, look, the major barrier in most of Africa is this lack of a culture of data, where we somehow prefer oral conversations. And yet, without data, it's impossible to know where you are and what more you need to do, even to set targets of how you want to make progress on challenges. And so it's a massive investment.
Right.
But just external bodies being excited about it is not enough. The citizens must make their governments be excited about data.
And that's one of the things you're hoping to do at this high-level AU meeting this week. You're going to try to get African governments to commit to tackling this challenge. What are your expectations of them? How are you going to push this through during this meeting? So
first, there is the awareness part of it. This data came out, this research thing came out. Someone like Prime Minister Modi didn't find it funny in India. So what do you think he's done? He's the champion of fixing the problem. The same thing hasn't happened on our continent. It hasn't happened. In fact, a lot of them draw blind. When you talk about this data, I just told you the mismatch between, you know, ministers of education of our countries were asked, what percentage of the children in your school system do you think are learning? They mentioned numbers that were just so exaggerated. So someone would say, minister would say, 80% of the children in my school system are learning. In the assessment, only 20% were learning. The mismatch is incredible. Right. So just bring into a place where everybody in your face, this is the data. What do you do with this? You know, that's political, you know, leadership that will arise from awareness. So political salience of the problem is important. And then we point them to the fact that this is not a problem without solution. Some countries, in fact, some districts, say in Brazil, are made within a year at community levels, the district levels, because, I mean, it's ultimately the classroom issue and you know, connecting with the leadership issue. Schools were able, or whole districts were able to improve the learning outcomes of majority of children. So we will point them to evidence-based solutions. A lot of the times when we talk about problems in Africa, we begin to say, what do I think is the idea to solve it? No, no, no. There are ways that evidence-informed solutions have been found, things that have worked, interventions that work at scale. We have some of them already in Africa. So even in Ghana, there are some examples of things that work in improving learning. We'll point them to evidence-based solutions. Great. And then we will hold them to accountability. We have
barely 1 minute. I want you to talk about your school project.
Accountability.
Yeah, your school project. We just want to talk about that and how you're hoping that also helps.
Yes, so the other thing I do with my time is, you know, building schools that would raise Africa's new political and public leaders. I'm tired of public and political leaders that don't listen to the important things around good governance. So we're raising a new generation of that. We'll soon be starting the SPPG, School of Politics, Policy and Governance in Ghana. We already have Nigeria, it's in the 4th year. We have Senegal, it will be in its 1st year. And then we're going to do Ghana, Kenya, and Zimbabwe next.
Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, founder, chief executive of Human Capital Africa, also former World Bank vice president, Africa region. Great to have you in studio.
Thank you so much, Dario.
Hopefully, we'll come back and find out what the outcome of your engagements with the African government.
That would be excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes. And that's the marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. The day's latest stories over there. Thanks for watching. We'll be back same time tomorrow.